Good evening. You are tuning into AWANI Tonight with me, Soraya Mia. Amno will defend all seats won in GE14 and Bumiputra policies under 12 Malaysia plan. Will they promote or hinder the community? That's coming up. Amno will defend all seats it had won during the 14th general election. Party President Datuk Sri Ahmad Zahid Hamidi said this includes all parliament and state seats won in the last election, as agreed by the Amno Supreme Council last year. He said the decision is not only supported by the Supreme Council, but also by grassroots who wanted Amno to reclaim dominance after GE15. Amno won 54 parliamentary seats and 241 state seats in GE14. Zahid was responding to Perikatan Nasional Chairperson Tan Sri Muhyiddin Yassin, who said the Perikatan Nasional Coalition would continue seat negotiations next week. Within PN, seat negotiations involve Bersatu, PAS and Gerakan in Peninsula Malaysia, and Parti Solidariti Tanah Airku STAR and Parti Progressive Sabah SAPP in Sabah. 120 Bersatu members from the Putrajaya division has quit the party to join Amno, including its division chief, Datuk Sri Dr. Irwan Muhammad Tahir. Irwan said he decided to return to Amno as he believes only Amno can uphold and defend Malay privileges, the federal constitution and the monarchy. He handed over his membership form to Putrajaya Amno chief, Datuk Sri Tengku Adnan Mansor, today. Others joining Irwan include Bersatu Putrajaya Division Vice Chief, Division Secretary, committee members, women and youth leadership. Irwan is the latest Bersatu chief to ditch the party for a return to Amno. In August, former Temerloh Bersatu chief Tan Sri Tengku Azlan Sultan Abu Bakar also quit the party to rejoin Amno. The Health Ministry has given conditional approval for the COVID-19 vaccine made by China's Sinovac to be used on young people aged between 12 and 17. Health Director General Tan Sri Dr. Nur Hisham Abdullah said at the moment, CoronaVac is suggested for use on adolescents without underlying health conditions, as well as those with allergies and cannot receive the Pfizer vaccine. Dr. Nur Hisham said evaluation for the use of the vaccine among adolescents with comorbidities would continue once sufficient data was submitted. The vaccine was previously approved for conditional registration for use among individuals aged 18 and above. This is the second COVID-19 vaccine approved for use on adolescents after a similar approval was given to the Pfizer vaccine last June. Only fully vaccinated individuals are allowed to dine in and enter facilities throughout all phases of the National Recovery Plan. Health Minister Khairi Jamaluddin said this decision was made taking into account the dominance of the Delta variant.
He said that individuals who cannot be vaccinated because of health reasons are required to submit health information that has been verified by a medical officer. He added that the National Security Council would announce the latest details of the SOP in the near future. Meanwhile, the Health Ministry will also allow fully vaccinated husbands or immediate family members to accompany pregnant women in the labour room during childbirth beginning October 4th. They, however, must undergo a COVID-19 screening test within 72 hours, and the test results must be brought along before accompanying the pregnant mother into the maternity ward.
The private sector should emulate the Public Service Department in mandating COVID-19 vaccination for all staffs by November 1st. Currently, there isn't a law to mandate vaccinations, either at the workplace or any other circumstances. But President of Association of Private Hospitals Malaysia, Datuk Dr. Kuljit Singh, thinks this would be best to assist the reopening of the country and the economic recovery.
It is important in the private sector, particularly those who are providing service to the people and also those who are working in offices, so that they do not infect each other. And this is the only way people can go back to work and stop this pandemic from going on further. And I think before legislation or there is a mandate through law, I think we all should take the responsibility, even in the private sector, and get everyone vaccinated.
He added that the private healthcare sector, where almost 100% staffs are vaccinated, had used a soft approach to educate the merits and advantages of being vaccinated against COVID-19. Under the 12 Malaysia Plan, the government announced a soon-to-be policy whereby the sale of Bumiputra shares or companies will only be offered and sold to fellow Bumiputra consortiums, firms and individuals. How will this measure facilitate the Bumiputra agenda? We speak to Raja Ahmad Iskandar Faris from Research for Social Advancement to discuss if the measure promotes or hinders the community as a whole.
The problem that they face right now, most importantly, is poverty reduction, the lack of economic opportunities. How can they have access to enough funds to acquire such shares or equity in companies? And as many experts have mentioned, limiting the option for shares to be traded beyond just one community, beyond just race, devalues the stock itself, the equity itself. Then eventually it will hurt the community that the policy is trying to help. On the other hand, because there are a certain pool, a small pool of already existing, we can say cronies or connected groups, then there is a tendency for them to reap the benefits of this policy.
Iskandar is of the view that it is time to move away from affirmative action policies and focus on measures to promote self-reliance instead.
The bigger agenda, I would say, are two-pronged. One is economic security for all Malaysians, while also empowering disadvantaged groups as a form of economic solidarity. And here, when I say economic solidarity, it has to be expanded than just one community. It should expand to beyond the original beneficiaries of affirmative action to include other disadvantaged groups and economic minority groups. Intervention should be reoriented towards building capacity so that they can self-rely and have a goal of graduating from affirmative action in the future. Ultimately, we need to have empathy for each other and everyone, while building consensus on a way forward that can take care of the interests of all Malaysians.
Now we'll go for a quick break. Stay with us.
And have a goal of graduating from affirmative
kita bulatkan tekad dan bersatu hati untuk terus memelihara serta mempertahankan kedaulatan negara. Sebagai keluarga Malaysia yang besar, kita harus bertoleransi dalam semua perkara. Hormat menghormati serta mengekalkan perpaduan rakyat yang berbilang kaum, agama dan bangsa serta integrasi nasional silang budaya adalah tunjang kekuatan kita sebagai sebuah negara bangsa yang berjaya. Umpama selembar benang dikait, ditenun dan dijalin, akhirnya menjadi kain yang sempurna indah.
Untuk rambut yang segar dan
Welcome back. How do we reduce the prevalence of sexual harassment in the country? Awam's Jurnal Tan believes that legislations addressing sexual harassment should be put in place with enhanced protection for survivors as the focal point.
The long-term solution way forward would be to pass a survivor-centric anti-sexual harassment bill. It's important that we have a survivor-centric one because our employment laws, for example, has really covered sexual harassment, but it has very inadequate coverage. So an anti-sexual harassment bill has to protect everyone. It has to have a comprehensive definition that covers all forms of sexual harassment, including online, across all spaces. That's very important. Other provisions that should be included include setting up a tribunal, for example, because if you go through the civil court now, it's very expensive. It's public, so survivor's privacy is nil. It's also basically it's very expensive, it's very time consuming as well. So a tribunal would enable survivor to get redress in a very affordable manner, as well as quick, not to mention survivor has access to a wide variety of remedies. Other provisions also include, very importantly, basically mandating institutional commitment in preventing and reducing sexual harassment. So women currently, one of the crucial reasons why women still, a lot of women experience sexual harassment on a wide scale is because our institutions, not many of them actually have policies that prevent sexual harassment. So when you mandate this institutional commitment, everyone has the responsibility to prevent and reduce sexual harassment. So that's crucial.
Until an anti-sexual harassment bill is passed, Janelle urged for the public to continue speaking up against sexual harassment.
That everyone plays a role in reducing sexual harassment by, for example, challenging myths surrounding sexual harassment, understanding that sexual harassment is not okay. So when more people actually come on board and realize that sexual harassment is not acceptable, that it violates women and recipients' dignity and body, that's when we probably see a significant way forward in terms of reducing sexual harassment until the bill is passed.
On to international news. Australia will reopen its international borders from November, easing one of the toughest COVID-19 restrictions imposed globally. Since the pandemic started, Australia has banned even its own people from leaving the country.
The policy has been praised for helping to suppress COVID, but it has also controversially separated families. Prime Minister Scott Morrison said people would be eligible to travel when their state's vaccination rate hit 80%. Travel would not immediately be open to foreigners, but the government said it was working towards welcoming tourists back to Australia. At present, people can leave Australia only for exceptional reasons, such as essential work or visiting a dying relative. Entry is permitted for citizens, but there are restrictions on arrival numbers. This has left tens of thousands of Australians stranded overseas.
The leader of Australia's New South Wales, Gladys Berejiklian, announced her resignation today after the corruption watchdog said it was investigating her. She said her resignation will take effect as soon as the state's Liberal Party can elect a new leader.
The New South Wales Independent Commission Against Corruption said it was investigating whether some of Berejiklian's actions between 2012 and 2018 may have breached public trust. A public inquiry on the matter is scheduled for October 18th. Berejiklian, who became Premier in 2017, has been one of the most prominent faces of Australia's COVID-19 pandemic response. She had faced mounting criticism over her government's handling of the recent outbreak in New South Wales.
Authorities in Bangkok warned communities near the Chao Phraya River to brace for more flooding from today until Tuesday. 7 people have died and 2 missing since Sunday from flooding triggered by tropical storm Tianmu. Residents in ancient city Ayutthaya, north of Bangkok, already saw effect as water overflown from rivers, flooding low parts of town. Some 230,000 households in 31 provinces in the north, northeast and central regions were affected. The last time Thailand was hit by a disastrous flood was in 2011. Newly retired boxing icon Manny Pacquiao was the first to file his candidacy to be the next president of the Philippines. Registration for thousands of political posts started today in what is expected to be a hotly contested election next year. More than 60 million Filipinos will vote in May 2022 for a new president, vice president, and more than 18,000 lawmakers and local government officials. The week-long registrations, usually a festive event with big crowds, will be more sober this year with COVID restrictions in place. Pacquiao said his priority is to resolve the pandemic and can drive Philippines' economy to recovery. Pacquiao announced his retirement from boxing on Wednesday to run for the president. He is a 2-term congressman and currently a senator. With one of the longest-running school closures globally, the MOE designed an online system, PDPR, to compensate for their decision to close schools. What was actually delivered? Tonight on Consider This, we ask economist Prof. Nias Asadullah about his research findings. That is all we have for you on AWANI tonight. Get the latest news updates on COVID-19 and COVID-19 vaccines from astroawani.com and the Astro AWANI app. I'm Soraya Miao. We'll see you soon.